Emma had always been a light sleeper. The smallest sound, the creak of a floorboard, the hum of the refrigerator could wake her. That night, though, the noise that pulled her from her dreams was different. It was the sound of the front door closing quietly, the familiar click that echoed faintly through the hallway. She turned her head toward the clock on the nightstand. It was 11:47 p.m. Her mother, Clara, wasn't home. She'd gone to visit her sister 2 towns away and had called earlier to say she might stay the night. That left Emma alone in the house with Mark, her stepdad. Mark wasn't a bad man, not by any means. He had been patient with Emma when her mother first remarried, always giving her space, always trying to make her comfortable. But they weren't close either. Their relationship was polite but distant, like two people trying to share a house but living in separate worlds. Emma sat up, brushing her hair from her face. She wasn't scared, but something about the quietness felt heavy. The kind of quiet that feels like it's waiting for something. She pulled her blanket tighter and stared at the door. Then came a soft knock. 3 light taps, Emma. Mark's voice was low, almost hesitant. She frowned. Yeah. There was a pause. Are you awake? Kind of. What's wrong? I just wanted to check if you're okay, he said. There's a storm coming in. The wind's picking up, might get bad. Emma blinked. She hadn't even noticed the weather. Now faint thunder rolled in the distance, and rain started pattering against the windows. Oh, I'm fine, she said. Just reading before I sleep. Mark stood in the doorway, one hand resting on the frame. He looked tired, the kind of tired that goes deeper than just needing sleep. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, his hair slightly damp from outside. He'd probably gone to bring in something from the porch. All right, he said, offering a small smile. If you need anything, I'll be downstairs. 'Kay. He hesitated again, as if he wanted to say something else. But then he nodded, gave her another quick smile, and disappeared down the hallway. Emma lay back down, but her thoughts didn't settle. Something about the look in his eyes stayed with her, a kind of quiet sadness. Mark had always seemed steady, calm, almost unshakable. But lately, ever since her mom's frequent trips for work, he'd looked different. Distant. The storm outside grew stronger. Wind rattled the windows, and the old house groaned in protest. Emma reached for her phone, trying to distract herself with music. But the Wi-Fi flickered off. Great. Another hour passed. She must have dozed off because when she opened her eyes again, the power was out. The only light came from the faint flashes of lightning beyond the curtains. The storm was full now, thunder shaking the walls. Then came the sound of footsteps again. Slow, careful, Emma. This time she sat up immediately. Mark, yeah, he said softly. Power's out. Just checking on you again? She relaxed a little. It's okay. I'm fine. Just a bit jumpy. Understandable, he said. Do you want me to bring a flashlight or a candle? Maybe a candle, she admitted. It's too dark. He came in with a small candle holder, the flame flickering against his face. It painted shadows under his eyes, making him look older somehow. He set it on the nightstand carefully. There, he said. Better. Yeah, thanks. The room glowed with soft orange light. For a moment, it almost felt warm, comforting. Mark stood there, looking around as if searching for something to fix. You know, he said finally, your mom used to hate storms. She'd always sit in the living room and talk until they passed. Emma smiled faintly. Yeah, she told me. She said you'd make her tea when the thunder got too loud. He chuckled. That's true. I guess I just like feeling useful. There was an awkward pause, and Emma realized this was the longest conversation they'd had in weeks. You still miss your dad sometimes, don't you? Mark asked gently. The question caught her off guard. Yeah, she said after a moment. I mean, he's been gone a while, but yeah, some things stick. I get that. He looked toward the window, lost in thought. When people leave even for good reasons, they don't really leave, do they? They stay somewhere in us. Emma nodded slowly. For the first time, she saw him not as her mother's husband, but as someone who carried his own quiet stories. Someone who also understood loss. Another crack of thunder made her jump, and Mark looked back at her. You okay? Yeah, she said, forcing a laugh. I just hate thunder. Always have. Well, he said softly, then you should come downstairs. It's warmer there, and less creaky than this room. She hesitated. It was late, and she didn't want to seem childish. But the storm was loud, louder than before. Okay, she said finally. She grabbed her blanket and followed him down the hall. The living room was dimly lit by more candles, shadows dancing along the walls. Mark had set a kettle on the gas stove, the faint whistle echoing through the house. Hot chocolate? He asked with a grin. Emma couldn't help but laugh. You're serious? Completely. He poured 2 mugs and handed her one. The warmth seeped through her fingers, grounding her. They sat on opposite sides of the couch, the candle between them flickering gently. I don't think we've ever really talked, Emma said after a while. Mark looked surprised. Maybe not. I guess I was always worried I'd say the wrong thing. You don't have to worry, she said quietly. You're not bad at talking. That made him smile. That's good to know. The clock on the wall ticked softly. Outside, the storm began to ease. But inside, something else had shifted, something quieter, unspoken. They sat there in comfortable silence, sipping their drinks. The warmth of the chocolate, the glow of the candle, the soft sound of rain, it all made the moment strangely peaceful then. Just as Emma thought the night would end there, Mark spoke again. His voice barely above a whisper. There's something I've been meaning to tell you, he said. Emma's heart skipped. His tone wasn't stern, but serious. What is it? He looked at her for a long moment before answering. I just want you to know you're not alone here. I know you've felt like an outsider in your own home since your mom remarried, and I've probably made it worse by keeping my distance. But that was never because I didn't care. Emma felt her throat tighten. And why? Because he said, eyes soft, I thought maybe you needed space. I didn't want to replace anyone or make you feel like I was taking your father's place. She didn't know what to say. For so long she'd built quiet walls around herself, and suddenly he'd found a door through them. Thanks, she whispered. That means more than you think. Mark nodded, his eyes reflecting the candlelight. Good, because that's all I wanted to say. The storm outside faded to a soft drizzle. The house was still. Neither of them knew that this night, simple as it seemed, would change everything between them. The next morning, the house felt different. The storm had passed, leaving a quiet calm and a lingering smell of wet earth. Sunlight streamed through the windows, highlighting dust motes dancing in the air. Emma woke to the soft hum of the refrigerator, feeling a strange mixture of comfort and unease from the night before. She lay in bed for a moment, thinking about what Mark had said. His words, so simple and honest, had carried more weight than she expected. She realized she hadn't really seen him for what he was, a person with feelings, fears, and intentions she had never tried to understand. All she had known before was his distance. A polite but distant stepdad who rarely crossed the invisible line she had built around herself. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from her friend Sophie popped up. Morning. Did you survive the storm? Emma smiled faintly and typed back. Yeah, it was wild. You missed it. Then she paused, thinking about what to share. Last night wasn't something she could text in a few words. It was heavier, deeper, more personal. After getting ready, she went downstairs to find Mark already in the kitchen brewing coffee. The smell filled the house, warm and reassuring. He glanced up and offered a small smile. Morning, he said. Coffee? Sure, she replied, sliding a chair to the table. As she sat, she noticed him hesitating for a moment, his hands wrapped around the mug. Emma, he said carefully, about last night. I hope it didn't feel weird. Emma shook her head quickly. No, I mean, it was fine. Actually, it was. Nice, calm. She realized how rare it was to feel that kind of calm at home. Their house was usually filled with the noise of busy schedules, errands, and chores. Evenings were often rushed, and she barely saw her mother awake at night. But last night had been different. It had felt like the first time in months that someone cared to just sit and listen. Mark nodded, relieved. Good. I didn't want to overstep. You didn't, she reassured him. I think I needed it more than I realized." For a moment, they both sipped their coffee in silence. The morning light made the room look soft and peaceful, and Emma felt a warmth that wasn't just from the coffee. It was trust, quiet and fragile, but there nonetheless. Then Mark cleared his throat. "There's something else I need to tell you." Emma's heart skipped. "What is it?" He set his mug down, leaning against the counter. "It's about your mom. She hasn't been completely honest with you about her work trips. Some of them are for family reasons, not just business." "I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to cause worry or confusion," Emma frowned. "Family reasons?" "Yes," he said carefully. "She's helping her brother. He's had some difficulties lately. Health issues. She didn't want to worry you, so she said it was work." Emma felt a strange mix of relief and frustration. Relief because her mom wasn't lying maliciously. Frustration because she felt left out, like she wasn't trusted to understand. "I wish she told me," she said quietly. "I know," Mark said. "And I'm sorry. I only found out a few days ago. I didn't know how to explain it to you without making things more complicated." Emma nodded slowly. "Thanks for telling me." They sat together, the conversation shifting naturally. They talked about small things at first, school, friends, weekend plans. But gradually, the discussion deepened. Mark shared stories from his own childhood about moving often, about the times he felt like an outsider, and how he had learned to adapt. Emma listened, fascinated. For the first time, she saw him as a person who had lived a full life outside her home, who had challenges and experiences that shaped who he was. Then came a knock on the door. Emma glanced up to see a neighbor, Mr. Peterson, standing with a small box of muffins. "Thought you two might like these," he said kindly. Mark smiled warmly. "Thanks, Mr. Peterson. That's very thoughtful." After he left, Emma realized something important. Her home, it's often full of tension and unspoken rules, could also be a place of quiet support. She glanced at Mark, noticing how his eyes crinkled when he smiled, how he moved naturally without pretension. She remembered the night before, the storm, the candlelight, the words of reassurance, and understood something she hadn't before. Trust wasn't something that came overnight. But last night had been a start. A single night of honesty, patience, and presence could begin to bridge the gap that months of polite distance had created. Later that day, Emma's mother called. She spoke quickly, apologizing for not explaining everything. But Emma felt calm. She told her mother she understood, and for the first time she realized she didn't feel abandoned. She felt included, part of the family, even if it was messy and imperfect. After the call, she and Mark spent the afternoon organizing old photos in the living room. They laughed at awkward hairstyles, strange fashion choices, and old-school photos. The laughter was light, almost healing. For Emma, it was more than just fun. It was connection. It was understanding that family could be complicated. But it could also be comforting. As evening fell, Emma noticed the sky turning a soft lavender. The sun dipped behind the trees, casting long shadows across the living room. Mark looked over at her and said, "You know, I think we're finally starting to get the hang of this, being family." Emma smiled, feeling something shift inside her. The night of the storm had been the first step, but today, this ordinary, simple day was the proof that relationships could grow, evolve, and even surprise you. Then, just as they were about to head upstairs for dinner, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Mark went to answer it, and Emma followed, curious. At the doorstep stood a delivery man with a package, but inside it was something they didn't expect. An old letter addressed to Emma. In her father's handwriting, she held it in her hands, trembling slightly. The envelope was yellowed with age, the ink faded but readable. Her father had written it years ago, and she hadn't known it existed. "Emma," Mark said softly. She opened the letter, hands shaking, and began to read. Each word brought back memories she had almost forgotten, stories her father wanted to tell her, advice he had written down. It was a message of love, reassurance, and hope. And in that moment, Emma realized that even though people left, life changed, or storms passed. Family, in its many forms, could still offer care, support, and connection. The day ended with Emma sitting on the couch, the letter on her lap, candlelight flickering gently as Mark prepared dinner. She understood something crucial. Trust and understanding were the real anchors of a home. Night or day, storm or calm, connection could be built if people were willing to reach out, speak honestly, and listen. And as the sun fully set, Emma knew the next chapter of her family story was just beginning, a story of patience, care, and unexpected truths that could bring them closer than she ever imagined. The evening settled softly over Emma's home, the sky painted in warm hues of pink and gold. Inside, the house felt quieter than usual, yet somehow lighter. The storm from days before had passed, leaving only gentle breezes through the open windows and a faint smell of rain lingering in the air. Emma held the old letter in her hands, its edges fragile, ink faded but still readable. Her father's words written years ago resonated with her now in a way she could never have anticipated. Mark was in the kitchen, preparing dinner with deliberate care. Emma watched him from the couch, realizing how different their relationship had become in just a few days. The tension that had existed before, the polite distance, the cautious avoidance had begun to dissolve, replaced by a tentative warmth and mutual understanding. The small moments they shared now carried weight. A smile across the room, a shared laugh at an old photo. A conversation that felt sincere and honest. Emma opened the letter again, reading passages aloud softly. Her voice carried over the gentle clatter of dishes and the hum of the refrigerator. The words reminded her of her father's love, his hopes for her, and the importance of family even when circumstances were complicated. Each line felt like a bridge between past and present, reminding her that connections, even ones strained or incomplete, could be restored and nurtured. Mark, hearing her, paused and leaned against the counter. "He really loved you," he said quietly. "He always wanted the best for you, even if things weren't perfect." Emma nodded, a lump forming in her throat. "I know. I think I understand him better now. And maybe understand myself too." For the first time in weeks, she felt a calm clarity. The emotions from the stormy night, fear, confusion, worry, were still present, but they no longer held her captive. Instead, they had transformed into something else: awareness, empathy, and a growing trust in the people around her. After a while, Mark suggested they step outside to watch the sunset from the backyard. Emma agreed, eager to feel the fresh air and quiet. They walked slowly across the grass, the soft crunch under their feet grounding them in the moment. The sky above was alive with color, streaks of pink, orange, and purple blending into the approaching night. It felt like a metaphor for their lives, messy, unpredictable, but capable of creating beauty if you paid attention. "I never thought I'd feel this way about Rapi. I never thought I'd feel this way about us," Emma admitted, her voice almost a whisper. "I mean, our family. I thought it would always feel awkward, like something was missing." Mark smiled gently. "I know, I thought so too. But I guess sometimes it takes a few storms, a few honest conversations, to see the truth." They stood in silence for a few moments, the only sounds the rustle of leaves and distant bird calls returning to the neighborhood after the rain. It was peaceful, the kind of peace that made Emma feel like she could breathe fully again. Later that evening, Emma's mother returned home. The moment was quiet but filled with subtle emotion. She apologized again for keeping certain things from Emma, explaining that she had only wanted to protect her. Emma listened, her heart softening. She realized that her mother's choices, while imperfect, came from love, and she felt a renewed sense of connection to both her parents, past and present. As dinner began, the three of them sat together, sharing stories, laughing, and talking about plans for the coming week. The conversation flowed naturally, unforced, and for Emma, it was a revelation. Family didn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. It could be messy, awkward, even complicated, and yet still full of love, support, and understanding. After dinner, Emma returned to the living room with her letter. She read it one last time, committing the words to memory. Her father's encouragement, his wisdom, and his warmth had left a mark on her heart. She realized that the lessons of the past didn't need to be forgotten. They could guide her forward, shaping her relationships and decisions. Mark joined her, sitting beside her on the couch. They talked about simple things, school, hobbies, favorite movies, and Emma noticed how easy it felt to share these small details now. The barriers that had once separated them were gone, replaced by respect, trust, and a growing sense of familial love. As night fell, the house settled into quiet. Emma climbed into bed, her thoughts calm, her heart light. She reflected on the past few days, the storm, the night of tension, the revelations, and the small moments of connection that had followed. She realized that life would continue to present challenges, misunderstandings, and unexpected events. But she now had the tools to face them with patience, honesty, and compassion. The following morning, Emma woke to the sound of birds and sunlight spilling into her room. Mark was downstairs making breakfast, and her mother was already awake, humming softly while preparing coffee. Emma felt a warmth she hadn't noticed before, a sense of home, of belonging, of being truly seen. She realized that the people around her, though imperfect, were willing to try to grow. And to care. Emma went downstairs carrying her letter. She handed it to her mother. "I wanted you to see this," she said softly. Her mother took it, reading a few lines, and then looked at Emma with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for sharing this with me. It's beautiful." Mark joined them, smiling, and for the first time in a long time, the three of them sat together in quiet contentment. The house, once tense and filled with unspoken rules, now felt alive with connection, trust, and love. They had faced storms, both literal and emotional, and had come through stronger, closer, and more understanding of one another. Emma realized something important. Family was not about perfection. It was about presence, honesty, empathy, and the willingness to see each other as human beings, flawed, growing, and capable of love. The days that followed continued in a similar rhythm, filled with laughter, small gestures of care, and moments of reflection. Emma, her mother, and Mark began creating new routines, movie nights, shared meals, walks after dinner, and each small ritual reinforced the bonds. Between them, Emma often thought back to the night of the storm, remembering how fragile her sense of safety had felt. But she also remembered the honesty, the patience, and the quiet moments that had followed, teaching her that trust could grow from even the most unexpected situations. By the end of the week, Emma felt a profound change within herself. She understood her stepdad in a way she never had before, appreciated her mother's efforts, found a renewed sense of confidence in her own ability to navigate life's complexities. She knew that challenges would arise, but she felt prepared, supported, and connected. That night, as she lay in bed, Emma held the letter once more. The words seemed to glow in the soft candlelight from her bedside lamp. She whispered a quiet thank you to her father, to Mark, and to her mother. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly at peace. The storm had passed. The secrets had been revealed, and the bonds of family had been strengthened. Emma realized that life's true surprises were not always dramatic or dangerous. Sometimes they were quiet, heartfelt, and transformative. And in that quiet, she felt ready to face whatever the future might bring, knowing that love, honesty, and connection would always guide her home.